Hello guys, and we are live. Welcome to the sprint release meeting number 53. And let's go straight to our Trello to see what's changed in the sprint. So bottom to top, we had the bug. Lazy properties are actually properties, so they are not protected from overriding. Basically, you know that recently we protected all our properties to avoid confusion by test writers who override some of the basic test properties, but not the lazy properties ones, such as SRC test. You may have noticed some changes to Avocado miss tests because of this. So if you see an issue like you can't override property, then it's because of that, and you're overriding some values which you are not supposed to. Then we had remove the unnecessary lazy property from test, which is related to this one because we did not actually need properties for some of the methods, so they were addressed. Then we have Avocado VT package has issues with Python 2 Avocado from Apple. Clever addressed this by changing the dependencies, so you should be able to use Avocado from Apple along with Avocado VT. Then we have Avocado VT Rails 7.3 guest definition for ARC64.
Minor Avocado VT
Yeah,
issue.
again, minor Avocado VT issue. By the way, feel free to interrupt me anytime. Then we have remove job URLs links. Basically, in the job data, we used to store references in some files which we changed because of the names changes. But due to 36 LTS, we had to keep them, and now we freely removed those. So if you're accessing job data, you may want to double check it's still working. Then we have bug skip broken. Plugin notification doesn't work on additional config files. Yeah, Kleber, any comments about that?
Yeah, so basically, we do support skipping broken plugin notifications by setting the name of the plugins in the configuration file. The thing is, the order in which the configuration files were parsed, it prevented those statements from actually being applied to the configuration because they were read after the plugins were loaded. So only the main Avocado configuration file, that setting was only applied correctly if it was in the main Avocado configuration file and not on the other like avocado conf.d files. So this actually fixes it, which is like if users install Avocado and have broken plugins, they can just put an extra configuration file instead of changing the default one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure why. I think there was an issue associated with this, but yeah.
Sure. Next one, remove HTML results symlink to results HTML. Again, in the LTS release, we wanted to keep the compatibility, so we had a symlink to the old results location. But as results HTML are now standalone files, it doesn't make sense to keep that symlink. And that's basically it. It had been a longer sprint, and there is still, I think, one or two short fixes. We may talk about them in a minute. Let's go through work in progress first, and then we can probably conclude what's in this release. Basically, yeah, we have this next work in progress item, which is create the release LTS next. document upcoming changes. This is an interesting file. If you remember, we recently released LTS release, and we needed, like, we created documentation what's different between 32 and 52. For next time, we don't want to do it once in a while, but we want to keep a file which is basically the next LTS, and you'll see upcoming features. Obviously, this file will be in progress, so some of the files may be removed. I mean, not files, but the features. But this could be, and I like, you can watch out for this, watch this file for changes and see how the next LTS will probably look like, and what will you gain when it will be released. Next one is bug writing to standard input. This is not likely to be fixed because it's quite problematic, but we are still working on it. Basically, writing to file descriptor 1 may produce some output in Avocado main API main
Process the
output.
test runner.
Yep. But on the other hand, what are we probably going to include in this release is this one, which is just waiting for some minor corrections, and that is handling of SIGIN on test runner freezes it. Basically, signal SIGIN should work similar to Control C, but in reality it did not because it did not propagate. So Amador did some exploration and then further work to make this happen and to avoid processes being left behind. As I said, this basically is stopped on some self-tests cleanup, so it will probably be part of this pull request. So from now on, Control C and SIGIN should work similarly. And another one which probably will be included is this one, which is sysstr_out and sysstr_error should have prefixes on logs. Basically, when user uses like process run, uh, its output is logged in the job log with this std_out or std_error prefix. But this does not apply for direct writes to sys std_out from inside this process, which is not consistent. So with this pull request, we are actually prefixing it in the job log, but still, and also logging it in the test results std_out file, which is an important change. So from now on, if you use this std_out directly, it should be used in std_out, and you could use it together with, for example, the results checker. I mean, the standard output checker.
And just for the record, I just reviewed V2 and merged it.
Okay. Yep. So it's merged. Yeah, I'll move it after the meeting.
I've
Nearly
moved
done.
it. So
Okay. So this is basically what's in this release, what came to this release. You can see that it's basically bug fixing, and oh, I forgot to create a card. And there is one new feature, uh, which is YAML loader. And let me demonstrate that one. I almost forgot about it. And let me share screen. The YAML loader is somehow cool in my eyes because I always needed this feature. Basically, you know that Avocado currently is not available to assign a test with a given YAML file or variance file, so you can't apply variance to one file and not to another, one test and not to another test. The YAML loader attempts to do this. Basically, you can create an YAML file. Example is in examples YAML loader, YAML Tmux loader, for example, basic YAML. And basically you just test reference, and it will result in, and then Avocado will iterate through the variance. So it will iterate through it, and it will look for test reference parameter. If it finds one without any issues, it is going to attempt to use this test reference and instantiate it as a test and add it to the test feed. This way you can actually create variants only for one of the branches. You can see here I could like add different values in those branches. So this itself results in one pass test being executed, one sleep test being executed, and one fail test PY with those three variants, as you can see here. Run it, it breaks for some reason. Oh, this was unexpected. I'm sorry about this. I was probably doing something else. I'm really sorry about this. Hopefully it will start work soon. Never mind, I'll definitely address this issue before release. It worked well before. Basically, Avocado list can show you the same. You can see that there will be pass test, sleep test, and 3 fail tests with different parameters. Another example here, which is the advanced example, shows how you can change the parameters. Yeah, I know what was the issue. Never mind. Basically, for example, here I have 2 branches. One is the timeout, one is the tests. So each of these tests will get 3 variants, the short, longer, and no timeout. And you can see that I set the timeout parameter here. Then I have pass test, sleep test, and fail test. And to make it more advanced, I also use include. And I include all the sleep test YAML file here, which means all the variants which are defined by the sleep test will be executed, which result in basically 3 sets of pass, sleep test, and fail tests with multiple variants of fail test and sleep tests. Again, I can just list, let me just address the issue, which is this avocado word, if I'm not mistaken, and then I can probably run it. More about that soon. And you can see that in this case, pass test, pass, sleep test medium passed, but this one was interrupted with 3 seconds timeout, or 2 seconds timeout. Another one was interrupted with 2 seconds timeout. And in this loop, even the 5-second one passed because there is 6-second timeout, and this one was interrupted. And in the last loop, it won't be interrupted at all. Yeah, basically, I mean, you know, if you're using variants, check this out. If you're not using variants, you're probably not interested in this. But now you can assign different variants to different tests in one execution. Last example is this one, which, for example, uses Avocado VT. And yeah, I just broke it. And you can see that here I use the same type, but I pass it the reference boot. But here I actually override test reference resolver arguments, which are the arguments which are passed to this loader. So basically, in this case, it will use the URL, and in this case, it will use this config file. Which is neat, and it can be used in instrumented test as well. You can just pass it different arguments. Obviously not arguments to Avocado, but arguments to that loader. And it won't work unless I do make link, because I need Avocado VT.
Will it link Avocado Vert as well?
I need to remove Avocado Vert, yes. let me list it. Just list it. You can see that the first one was generated out of the URL, and those one out of the URL. First one is actually instrumented test. The
Test
second one is
reference.
debut
Never
test,
say
and
URL.
then we have metrics of my custom rel tests between P series 2.7, 2.6, and 2.8. Which is pretty neat. So do check this feature out. There's a documentation which should answer some questions. And now why I had to remove Avocado Vert? That's because this loader, what it uses, it injects those parameters, or it assigns those parameters to the load. I mean the uh, how to call it. Basically, it's a loader, so it loads the test and it stores the parameter along with the definition of the test. Then it's processed, and the variant attempts to inject its parameters. But this is currently not supported, which means you can't mix and match variants. So I can't do -m. Uh, I can't at MOOCs.
Yeah, we call that the test factory.
Yeah, we can't add any variants as well. I mean, we can't use both at the same time. You can't use the MOOCs loader and any variants or parameter MOOCs inject, etc. This will be worked on in the future, but currently was out of scope of this sprint. And I had to remove the Avocado vert because Avocado vert injects parameters, which actually results in non-empty variant being used. So yeah, if you see a failure like this, it's because of Avocado vert, or you are using multiplexer along with the YAML file to generate the test suite. I mean, hopefully it was understandable. If you have any question to this feature. Nope. So yeah, I mean, see the issue uh, related to this. Yep, and that's basically it. We are going to release as soon as possible, right, Kleber? So probably during tomorrow or the next day.
Yep.
And
We
now
have,
for, yep,
I was just gonna say that we have run into some build issues, so we'll try to get them resolved, and at least one pull request still needs proper review. So probably by the end of the day or tomorrow, we'll be doing the proper release.
yep. And now to the aim of the next sprint. We have a bunch of cards added here. So again, bottom to top, implement strict virtual and isolation. Yeah, if you identified, I don't know what's your opinion on this, but we identified that the virtual environment as we use it still parses the default configurations and stores stores in the home directories, etc. Uh, which is okay according to the virtual environment, but we would like to create like strict virtual and isolation if asked for, and then only directories and files within the virtual environment will be used. Uh, so this will be probably a switchable configuration whether you want to use your home configuration or not. Yeah, feel free to comment on any card. Next, we have a log the full path of the currently executed tests. Basically, there is a possibility that when you execute a test that it's either in a local directory or it's in the test repository. So for now, we're just going to log the full path to be able to distinguish between those two tests and and later we're gonna implement some neat features to simplify it more. For example, this is the example when you have a past test py in your current directory, you can run it. It will be this file executed, but when you remove it, it will get the past test py from /user share avocado tests past test py if you have this test installed, or the example test, sorry, installed. So to avoid that, we're just gonna log the name. Next, we have define and improve sources of test params. This you may have seen an email thread about this. Basically, at this point, people are abusing the --mux inject to pass simple parameters to a tests, which is not really correct. So instead of that, we are thinking about including like different ways to add parameters. This is a generic card. Like for example, we can have hierarchy of params providers. Probably at this point we're considering something like --params or params inject, which would be a simple parameter injection, and it would go work with the mux inject and with the varianter. So obviously varianter would take precedence over the params and etc. So it would be a hierarchy. Next one, yeah, feel free to comment in the email threads if you have opinion about that. Then we have been actually asked many times how to do this. Basically, if you test not just a single test, but if you do want to exercise your object under testing more thoroughly, you usually need to create a base class with some shared wrappers or helpers. So we would like to write how to do in our documentation. So if you have suggestions to that, feel free to improve that documentation when it's done, or just suggest it to us so we can have better documentation. Then we have a loader at native Python unit test support. This is another card which we have on our to-do list for quite a long time. Basically, right now, if you want to run Python unit tests, you have to find them via contrib script, which was written by Kleber. But we can do better, so we can actually detect Python files, whether they are instrumented tests or maybe Python unit tests. So with this, you will be able to run them directly without the need to use this wrapper. Then we have a deal with Travis CI limitation. Yeah, basically this is an infrastructure work. Travis has a limitation on maximum runtime, and we really want to keep the feature where we check every commit. So hopefully you'll find a way if you have suggestions, as usual. Tackle all to-dos, fix me's comments about changes after LPS. We addressed some of those issues, but we still probably have more of them. So this card is about systematically going through the sources and looking for things that can be deprecated. And job data variants unable to serialize. Yeah, this issue is troublesome. We are still negotiating the way to fix it. Basically, right now, the YAML loader, which produces variants, it replaces the default direct the default dictionary with a parser which creates 3 nodes. Even though it's hidden, for example, in a list of things, so those will effectively become another tree structure, which is obviously not suitable for tests. So we are still working on a solution whether to detect such behavior and create a dictionary or revert it to dictionary, or whether to maybe change the parsing and creates a tree structure afterwards, or maybe just uh, to ask users to use strict or the strict like require from them to use YAML tag to say this is a dictionary, which works pretty well even nowadays. And the last one is profilers do not clean up after the Avocado run finishes. Yeah, this is a last minute request. We were pretty surprised about this because, for example, I'm using and having profilers defined and haven't noticed anything. So we just have to reproduce it and see whether this really happens. But basically, a user reported that when profilers are used, they do not finish after test execution. So we will probably try to, I mean, we aim for this bug as soon as possible. So any hot issues you would like to suggest or promote?
Hi Lucas, Kleber Yash. This is Morello from IBM Brazil. This is my first participation in your meeting, so please feel
Welcome.
free to tell me if this is not appropriate to ask here. And I do have some questions, if you don't mind.
Not at all. This is the right time.
I'm interested in understanding how this prioritization thing works on your team. I'm not just I I filled feature request and I would like if how this will end up in the to do in the long term. Is this something that maintainers copy the issue to this board, or is this something user needs to input in the board? I think not everyone has right access to it, right?
Yep. Basically, how it works is that the user can raise issues on GitHub
Mm-hmm.
or on mailing list, and
Mm-hmm.
we pull for those. And unless it's fixable easily, we create cards for them,
Mm-hmm.
usually in pretty short term.
Mm-hmm.
Then we review
Ah,
them.
my card is there.
Yeah.
Yep, probably. Then we review the cards in our internal meetings, just the board of us, and we prioritize them accordingly. Not always, like, I mean, there could be some cards which are not really prioritized, but if it's a really feature which we need to work on, we just move it to the top. When it's feature we are not likely work in the near future, we move it to long term. And once in
Mm-hmm.
a while, we reprioritize everything, or we clean up everything, usually once in 4 sprints.
Mm-hmm.
And during this meeting, it's actually the best time to say, okay, this really pressure, this is a like deal breaker for me. I really need this feature. So if you
Mm-hmm.
speak up here, we can move the card up, or we can say, okay, yeah, we can suggest a solution, but we don't really see us working on it, etc. So now it's the right time to
Mm-hmm.
speak up
I
for everyone.
understand. I understand. So the other question I have is regarding to the architectures, different architectures for GNOME x86. I bumped into some issues when running the QEmove boot.py, the VR basic test on PowerPC. And I'm wondering if you have interesting to get it fixed. I suppose yes.
Like first question, are you talking about Avocado Vert or Avocado VT?
Um, I'm sorry. The repository is under GitHub Avocado framework, Avocado Vert tests. There is a
Yep.
qemu slash boot.py file that do some VM spawning, very basic.
Okay. So
And
I
for
think that
example,
So I think the next
So
question is, you do have Avocado Vert installed as well. Did you install it as well?
yes,
Okay.
yes, I pretty much know what the issue is because there is a device QEMU adds by default. It's ISA serial, but it is
Okay.
not present on PowerPC. So basically, we'll be dealing with different command line arguments for different architectures. So I'm wondering if this is something we would be interested in fixing.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. Avocado Vert at this point is an exploration project, which means at this point it works only on x86 and it has some drawbacks. It has many limitations.
Mm-hmm.
It can be used for basic tasks, like very basic, but you can see that it, for example, fails on power.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're free to contribute and like suggest things, but I myself am like more inclined to do deeper cuts in Avocado Vert in the future. So if you intend to use it in a production, it may not be a good idea because uh, when we had time to work on it, there will probably be bigger changes,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like guaranteed.
Right.
Yeah, I
So,
think you have to. I'm sorry, Murilo. A quick point. You have to
mm-hmm.
assess if the test looks reasonable for your needs. But besides that, you have to look at the project evolution and see if this is something that you want, like, to send a one-time contribution, or that you're like depositing all your testing strategy on. So if you're depositing all your testing strategy on Avocado Vert, I would expect you to have a lot of resources to throw into it, uh, because it's not progressing as, say, as Avocado VT, because it's like Lukash said, it's a playground at this time. So I think that's an important point you have to take into account.
Right. So let me try to understand all this process, this information. So the avocado vert repository is kind of separate from the avocado framework, avocado
Exactly.
repository.
Exactly.
Right. Ah, I see. So this avocado vert has nothing to do with here, with this meeting. It's
It has,
applied.
like, same project, same people. It's just like,
Uh-huh.
it's extensions to Avocado to do
Uh-huh.
virtualization work. It
Uh-huh.
was created as a way to try to start something fresh, because Avocado
Uh-huh.
VT has a lot of legacy that is
Uh-huh.
both good and bad. So you can see that it's much slimmer, much more self-contained, and at the same time much more limited. So
Uh-huh.
it has
And
everything to do with this meeting, but yeah.
by the way, before we go there, I mean, do you know Avocado VT or do you not?
Yes, it is the previous version of avocado vert, right?
Yeah. So the point is, Avocado VT is pretty stable. It has been in use for more than 10 years, maybe even more.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it is great. It supports Power, it supports ARM, it supports Z series, it supports everything. It's not really easy to start with. So and so we took the great features of Virtest or the so-called Avocado VT
Uh-huh.
and moved some of them to the framework level, like the variants, etc., and created
Uh-huh.
Avocado itself.
Uh-huh.
And with that goes to probably try to strip down Avocado VT and create a new version of Avocado VT, which is the Avocado Vert.
Uh-huh.
But Avocado evolved, but Avocado Vert is still in diapers. Because, I mean, first you need the framework to run it, and then you can actually evolve the virtualization on top of it.
Sure.
So the question is how much time and effort do you want to put in? If you just want to run some basic test, I would go with Avocado VT at this point. If you want to test new features and you want to actively like shape the new tool, you can freely
Exactly.
join Avocado Vert and work on that side.
I got it. That's important information.
Yeah. And I don't know whether
Okay.
it's possible to say it right now, but there could be more option soon.
Yeah.
So basically, if I want a pretty stable and multi-architecture framework, I should stick with Avocado VT. And if I'm too bold and want to get the bleeding edge, I go to Avocado Vert. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
Okay. I did pretty much appreciate your attention, guys. Thanks for answering my questions. I
You're
do
welcome.
hope to
That's what the
contribute
meeting is
something.
for.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I see that Yash is also present. If he has questions, comments.
No questions. Just really happy with the amount of help you guys have been giving to Karen, and yeah, I think we are making a lot of good progress in terms of getting Avocado, you know, fixing the minor things within the config files. So that's very good. Thank you very much.
More than welcome.
Welcome. By the way, Muriel, whichever way you choose to go, the mailing list is here.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, I intend to send a Avocado VT patch to simplify creating new tests. So this may help actually with the
Sure,
beginning.
sure. I found it. I actually do not have that most experience in avocado, and sometimes I felt lost in a lot of things, but that would be greatly appreciated from my side and for everyone, I think.
You're
Yep.
not alone.
Yep.
People approach Avocado VT and they look at it. Oh, it's written in Python, but it feels like Java or something.
Yep. So I guess that's it. So we'll just tackle the remaining issues with the manual steps. Then we will release as soon as possible and start working on the next sprint. Again, in the background, we have, as Yash mentioned, we have some projects around virtualization, so not still ready to publish it yet. So we are not certain whether this next release will be in 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, but we will try to not keep it as long as this one. So have a nice week and bye.
You too,
Bye.
guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.